good. Hey, everybody out there, what's up? I sound just like everybody else starting a Google Plus Hangouts. What's up out there, everybody? I think I've said that before on the show. It's the Double S Project Fantasy Football Show. We have finished week 6. We're going into week 7. It's me, Previn IW. I don't have my banner up because Google Plus is screwing up Taylor. With me is my man, new to the show, Jamal Short, longtime co-worker, longtime cohort in fantasy football. We haven't played against each other, but we share the passion, I guess you could say. I'd like to say I raised this young man up in fantasy football, but that's just not true.
We've been asking about you coming over to the grown-up league. You have a depth of knowledge. You know, we kind of put it to the test in our league. You know, it's a little bit different.
Hey, well, for real though, I have seen your league really evolve over the years, just based on the stories you told me. So it's like you're operating at a different level of complexity that I'm used to. But Jamal's running a 16-team league, so that's really a major step up. I don't care where you're coming from. If you aren't doing 15, 16, you thought 12 was bad. I've been in 15 before. 12 is tough. 15 is tougher. 16.
Yeah, it's crazy because like we have, we play 9, including the defense, and then we also have 7 on the bench. So, I imagine that the free agent pool leaves quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty slim.
Oh yeah. So and that draft ain't no joke either. He's coming up to me at work, getting perspectives on the future draft. This is like the last 3 years, and he's naming guys that he's talking about taking in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. I'm like, I didn't even know they were still in football. Or I thought they were out of football, or I didn't know they were football players. So yeah. So how'd you do this weekend, man?
Looking at the scores right now, and I lost 145.95 to 144.55.
Okay.
And it seems that Yahoo went ahead and did that stat correction. So
okay, so explain how in your case, how did the stat correction get you?
It all came down to the Cleveland versus Pittsburgh game, and I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but Pittsburgh botched the field goal, and in our league we get points for 4th down stops and for block kicks. At the time it happened, Yahoo didn't classify it as either. So I'm sitting there doing the math. I'm like, all right, if it comes through in my favor, I'm gonna get this win. And they finally looks like they did it, and they added as a block kick, which is still both of them were plus 4 points. But yeah, apparently I just didn't have enough to get over that hump.
Oh man, death by auto correction. It happens to the best of us, and it certainly happens to the worst of us. I didn't get that unlucky this weekend. I actually went 2-0 in my 2 leagues, 10-team leagues. One is the Double S Project League. The other one is what I refer to as the Cookie League. It's the league run by the parents of my daughter's Girl Scout troop. And I'm doing pretty good in the Cookie League, and I'm at 500, 3-3 in the Double S Project League. And I just got lucky. I had Forte. He went nuts in one game. I had Andrew Luck. So, if you got luck, you're doing pretty good. But I did suffer a casualty, even though I didn't really wind up needing him. He might have been on the bench in Victor Cruz. We all saw it. The turf monster got him, or whatever that was. It's a fact of fantasy life. Some of us have been experiencing injuries. Some of us have been experiencing the Adrian Peterson removal from our rosters. And, just when it looked like Cruz was beginning to kind of get into the flow of things in the new offense for the Giants, there goes his knee. So I had to go find another wide receiver. And I think I had this conversation with Jamal about this time last week. Who do you take, Cruz or Randall? Victor Cruz or Ruben Randall? And you gave me some strong opinions about that.
Well, it's mainly been because like this whole Giants offense has been like just teetering along until here lately. So That obviously doesn't seem to be the case now, but Eli kind of finding his groove. But
Mine, except when you got to play Eagles.
yeah, but I mean, you only got to play it one more time, so maybe that won't be the case next time. But you got
Mm.
to say up until last week, it kind of went from an extremely slow start to the season to all of a sudden this explosion of the Giants. Oh, now they're right back in the thick of the NFC East, and then the stinker they put up Monday night. So I mean, what team do you really have? You know what I mean? Like, I guess we're about to really find out. Beckham didn't play the first couple games of the season. Now he's going to be asked to step up and fill the void that was left by Cruz. So I mean, the interesting part to take away from all this is the disappearance of Larry Donnell over everything else.
Oh yeah, that hurt some people this weekend.
Because that's 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
So you just kind of never know what you're going to get, especially with all this stuff. Apparently, yeah, they're finding their groove, but at the same time, that's obviously not shaking out well for him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're hitting backup tight ends.
Yeah, and if you recall, this is was it Ben McAdoo, the former Packers offensive coordinator, and even though Donnell was lighting it up earlier, you got to remember for several years now, the Packers have been kind of a grab bag at the tight end position, and maybe it's not unreasonable to expect you could possibly see the same things with the Giants, even though there's talent at the position that they got. So I guess for the foreseeable future, you don't really know if Donnell's going to be a constant or Fells or whoever else they're throwing to out there. Um, so, and I got a question. I think we talked about it a little bit last week earlier, but since you got 15 other competitors, um, and in a league of that size, you kind of got to think 3, 4 steps ahead, where in a 10, 12 team league, think 1 or 2 steps ahead. Jimmy Graham is going to be out for about another 2 or 3 weeks, it looks like. What was the response? What was the scramble like in your league, trying to fill that void?
From what I could tell, and it kind of goes along the lines of what we were joking about earlier, who was a tight end before Jimmy Graham. So and that seemed, I went back and looked through the history. That seemed to kind of hold true. There wasn't really a lot of movement for the Saints backup tight end.
Mm.
The surprise move was the Brandon Oliver pickup.
Yeah.
They're talking about being a week or so ahead. Everybody, the consensus seems to be that even before this guy got the job, Donald Brown was stinking it up and was like, well, whoever comes in next, if they do well, they'll probably leapfrog Donald Brown. But now the question we have going is, will Ryan Matthews get his job back? And that seems to probably be a negative.
Yes, a negative.
Yeah.
And it's not like you had a lot of faith in Ryan Matthews before he got hurt anyways. He was kind of like Trent Richardson West.
But you kept hearing those things about, he had a positive end to last year, and, this may be his breakout year. And he did, to be fair to him, he did start off okay.
Yeah, he started off okay.
Boom. He went down, and now he may be looking at an early exit from San Diego.
Yeah. So, interesting story last night watching. Did you watch all that game last night?
No, I caught the whole first half of it, and then I was like, all right, that's enough.
Okay. It was kind of like the tight end for the Rams, because I know there's a lot of movement on him like 2 weeks ago. Well, maybe not in your league, huh?
We talking about Cook?
Yeah. Cook burned me really bad last year, I think it was. I drafted him, and he was going on my never again forever list, which is a bad list to have out there. Y'all shouldn't keep one, but I keep one. Like Doug Martin, never again forever. I will not do it. Never.
Sorry. I'm learning that now.
Okay. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, that was a point of preseason conjecture between the two of us there. The intrinsic in value of Doug Martin.
The joke is he can't play the Raiders every week. I'm just saying. That's just the way it go.
Yeah. But yeah, Jared Cook, I didn't really follow. I saw he was getting a lot of passes thrown his way, but I didn't really get a chance to see how he was stacking up, and a lot of people were moving him. This Cook, right, with the Rams?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for some reason I keep thinking of him like he's a Titan still. I don't know why.
yeah, because he really didn't do anything besides have a lot of hype with the Titans.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seemed like last night, they were just moving him around more so, but that's kind of something they've been doing all season for whatever reason. Maybe he bought Austin Davis some cookies or something like that. I have no clue, but for whatever reason, he decided to look for the man last night.
Mm-hmm. And
But
Davis, go ahead.
they also did a lot of other interesting things last night, though. Like I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but Trey Mason got his first start. They had Tavon Austin lining up in the back. Well, not first start, but first couple carries of the season. Mm-hmm. Tavon Austin lined up in the backfield. So it seems like they're trying to open up the playbook a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't think they have much of a choice, really, with a third string quarterback. And I mean, what are they going to do? Bottle it up?
That's say that about the third string quarterback, because there's an article today that said, is he going to be the quarterback of the future for them?
The second half suggested probably not. It wasn't really his fault or nothing, but he was overwhelmed. I guess they could keep him on the roster or something, give him, that Brian Hoyer type treatment next year, when the Rams draft Jameis Winston. Did I say that?
Famous Jameis?
Yeah. No, okay, let's not go there.
Hold on, I gotta check around, see if I got some of his memorabilia around here somewhere.
Oh, shit. You're gonna do well on the other show. But so yeah, speaking of Austin Davis, and again, 16-person league. Was there a scramble on him earlier this year?
He was picked up the minute that I think he was a waiver claim, but he was picked up the minute that Bradford went down.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in our league, 16 teams, obviously there's only 32 teams in the NFL.
Right.
You got to have a quarterback for bye week. You just kind of never know what's going to happen, and you don't want to be that guy that's in the thick of things, and then they don't have a quarterback to get you through that bye week. Because in our league, quarterbacks put up roughly 25% of your points. So like last week, I had Phillip Rivers go for 50, and my point total 4, so almost a third of my points from a quarterback. That's not typical, but in our league, a quarterback can make or break you if the rest of your roster isn't balanced right.
Right. So that's So you had him. So does that mean that somewhere in your league somebody is depending on the Geno Smith Michael Vick combination?
Absolutely not.
Because that's an ugly state of affairs to be at.
What that is somebody may have one of particularly Geno, as let me get this through the bye week type quarterback, but no consideration in who's Geno playing this week? Should I really start him against?
Sure. What's Geno's matchup? You don't have that conversation no matter how many times.
He was drafted, and I remember when he was drafted, there was a lot of talk about, they seem to have a lot of faith in him, and obviously that's a statement that everybody makes in the preseason. But, early in the preseason, he was actually looking like he was developing into something.
Yeah.
Then the regular season started, and he was the same old Geno.
Well, no truth. I mean, he had the interception, but from a fantasy standpoint, it wasn't bad for like the first 3 weeks. It was like, well, those are respectable. It was a respectable performance for a bye week quarterback, and then as things started to really go downhill, you're like, well, thank God I'm in a 10-team league so I can cut him and pick up Tom Brady.
Yeah, one can only wish. But see, the thing that's killing him in our league is that you will not survive on a quarterback that goes 8 for 17 for 179 yards. Now, maybe the 179 yards you can get by with because that was Russell Wilson last year, but for 17, it was more like, 14 for 17 because we're in a PPR league, and we also give half points for completions via quarterback.
Okay.
But he was also doing more damage with his legs than what Geno Smith will ever do. It appears. So I don't understand.
He'll run one in about every other game.
Right. But I kind of understand that because Geno was doing those things at West Virginia. So what's happening?
It's called a pro-style offense.
He still got to scramble.
I guess he don't like the way them linebackers is looking.
I don't know, man.
I'll pass on that.
I don't know. I got no word for Geno Smith aside from Well, we tried. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at
Jameis Winston.
yeah.
Did I say that? Oh man! So I think you mentioned to me earlier today there was a trade. That was kind of a topic of the last show. The trade being the lost art, and you had a trade in your league. Obviously, again, being 16 teams, that's got to be either a very simple transaction or potentially a complex transaction. What was that?
There was one where it was just a tight end for a receiver, which seemed to help both parties out. But at this point in the season, you're going to start trying to see those, hey, man, you might as well look towards the future trades, you know?
You're in a keeper league.
Huh?
Keeper league.
Yeah. And I had one of those cross my my inbox probably about an hour or so ago, and they're asking for – they're going to give up Josh Gordon for VJax and a running back to be named. And, you know, I'm kind of on the fence about that because, you know, Josh Gordon would be a keeper. VJax really isn't doing much, and I can't really tell if it's his fault or not. But the numbers show 11 targets, 3 receptions. So what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
And I think Muscle Hamster might enter the conversation, and if that happens, yeah, I'll probably do it. But you know, I can't really see Muscle Hamster and Edelman leaving for Josh Gordon. You know, it's too many ifs surrounding that.
Mm-hmm.
Like early in the season, trades are pretty difficult to do because everybody has faith in their draft, and you know, I'm just gonna ride it out. Then once they see all is lost, I'm not gonna say it's a fire sale, but at the same time, you know, you start thinking about next year because our league has a pretty hefty payout, and you know, yeah, you may be out this year, but you win 1 year, or at least take second place, and you've already paid up for 4 years.
Right. And my man and Pete Double S was saying, kind of half joking, only half joking about one of his leagues just last week. Where he's also a keeper league, and he's saying the same thing. If he didn't get a win this week, you know, that where we at the second weekend of October, to the third weekend, if he hadn't seen better fortunes, it was time to look towards the future, and he was going to tank, but start jockeying for that draft position. But in the 10-team leagues, we haven't reached that level of complexity because they were both kind of started just for fun. I think I will broach the subject of keeper conversion with the commissioner of the Cookie League tomorrow because we've had that discussion prior, and that might change the dynamic. He goes and sends a communication out to everybody else in that league. But that's a league where, you know, I'm in tied for first place in that one with a 5-1 record, and everybody else is doing fairly well. I don't think anybody really getting blown away. But in the Double S league, you've got 1-4-2, and everybody else is like 3-3 and 2-4, and one guy at 1-4, and he just picked up his first win. So you're not just point being, you're not really going to see a lot of trade activity at this point. Maybe if it stays tight for another few weeks, you might see somebody say, look, I need to make something happen for the stretch run because everything is like packed up in the middle and I'm right there. So I'll be perhaps looking to make a consolidation, particularly at the receiver spot. Move somebody off and maybe try and pick up, I don't know, maybe a better tight end or even a running back or something. But we'll see how it plays out. I think if you want to see some good trade action, it's probably better in that league that the parity remains pretty high and anybody can knock off anybody on a given week. So we're going to get out for this in a few minutes, but anything else interesting going on? Like any other wild, far-reaching pickups, any interesting cuts that you've seen, you know, with the injuries being what they were?
Let's see. 14th, somebody just picked up Darren Reeves in Carolina.
That's where you have a 16-team league.
And I guess they're hedging.
Y'all Google Darren Reeves now.
Yeah. I guess they're hedging on the fact that Green Lantern is bound to get hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not really sure what's going on with D. Will, but I thought he came back, so that pickup kind of surprised me.
He came back and then he went back to the hospital.
Oh, really? Okay.
I heard he's down again.
And I think Tober's out another 2 weeks or something like that. Or Tober gone. All of them guys were down.
Were they doing anything anyway?
Huh?
Were they doing anything anyway?
Well, you know how they do with Tober, man. They just kind of get down there and say, "Here, bowling ball, go ahead and run in the end zone."
Yeah, and then when he gets stuffed, and then they have to get Cam to do it or something.
Yeah, but that hurt a lot of people last year. That people that had Cam Newton, because they get down there in the red zone, 5-yard line and in, and Tober just punch it in, and everybody was thinking Cam Newton of his rookie season, where you just take off and run and score. So, yeah. Aside from that, nothing really else is going on. There's a lot of, I guess, surprise at what's going on with some star players. Well, supposed to be breakout stars.
Yeah.
The disappearance of Cordero Patterson. That's kind of like
that's hurting people, man. Folks are talking about it's time to drop them.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy because, those skills are last seen on a milk carton, but the last thing everybody remembers is the flashes he showed at the end of last season. So was that a fluke? Was it a flash in the pan? I guess we'll see.
I think right now Bridgewater just ain't caught up with him.
But he was doing a lot of that damage on runs, not on passes.
But they need to go back to it then. Ain't like they got Peterson to hand the ball off to.
And maybe that's what's killing him. I have no clue, but because they were trying to use him like Harvin, but because remember, Ponder ain't throwing that ball to him. I mean, Ponder couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So I mean, it just surprised me that he's putting up 4 points per game versus the high teens he was putting up last season towards the end of the season. So obviously they moved on from making him a focal point.
Right. So Wednesday, we're talking about before we kill this off, the imminent return of Josh Gordon. When's that supposed to be?
I think week 10.
Okay. Well, it's never too early if he was available in your league. Obviously, probably got some folks beginning to go ahead and sneak and put in that move for him.
Now, I would put in for him now because that would be the ultimate steal for a playoff push.
If you haven't done it already.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, but I can change that.
It's so crazy in my league that Josh Gordon was not drafted, but the minute that talks came about the NFLPA and the suspension, he was picked up that day.
That's not the first time I've heard that either. I've heard that from some other folks. And just for no particular reason, I've just been really observing because I'm pretty deep at the receiver position on one of my teams. So I didn't really feel like I had to drop. There was nobody I could drop for him to pick him up being inactive. I had 5 guys that I felt comfortable playing on a week basis. And for the most part, that's rang true. And then now Cruz is out. So I do have a vacancy. So we'll see what's up with that. Maybe I can pick him up. Maybe somebody else that's lower in the priority list will just go ahead and beat me to him, which is actually likely the case because I'm middle of the pack instead of down at the bottom, which I'm used to. But hey, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. Looking forward to doing it again. This is exactly the sort of perspective we wanted to add to the show. Like I said, you with the more than a few years of experience under your belt now, and also that 16-team competitive edge you got there. Out there, everybody, it's me saying goodbye.
Thanks for having me.
And he's saying goodbye to everybody else too. We'll see you next week, man.
All right.